Hello Eggchasers, Tim here, and on this video I wanted to talk about how the proposed European Super League in football, which has had so much backlash, how that relates to rugby, and what maybe we can learn from football as we look to our own issues in rugby unions. That's what I'm going to get into, but first a quick reminder to, if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit like, it does help, and it helps other people that like rugby find us, because we don't have a big financial backer. We're just three mates that make a rugby podcast and have a YouTube channel. So a nice one for watching. I appreciate it. So the European Super League in football then. This seems to be the line at which football fans and the media and even government, bizarrely, politicians saying they're going to get involved. Well, I don't agree with that for the record, for what it's worth. But this seems to be the line. This proposed European Super League, breakaway league, ring-fenced competition seems to be the line at which people have said, this is greedy, this is too much, this is gratuitous. Well, I do find that quite peculiar, for starters, that this is the line. And before now, nothing's too greedy or nothing's over the line. So the giving the World Cup to Qatar in 2022, oh, that's bad, but we'll let that go, that's all right. Regardless of the bribery allegations, corruption allegations, the modern slavery of workers building the stadiums, the high number of deaths of people working in those modern slave-like conditions to make the World Cup happen in a country where it's illegal to be gay and you can be fined, imprisoned or killed for being gay. That we'll let that go. But this is the line. This is absolutely the line. Also, we'll let the fact that we have to pay nearly 100 quid to buy a football kit, and let's not even talk about where and how those kits are produced. But this is the line. So I guess I'm just pointing out some of the hypocrisies that we've seen from football, where they're saying this is the moment at which it becomes greedy and too much. But that said, hypocrisy aside, I do actually understand why this has rubbed up so much against football fans and media and all the rest of it, is because it's so counter to the traditions and the history and the culture of the sport in this country, in England. And I gather there are similar protests and unhappiness in Italy and Spain, presumably. But that's also the same reason why ring fencing the Premiership in rugby union is so much anathema to everything that rugby fans understand, because these clubs, which are going to potentially, according to the proposals, be ring-fenced, well, they say 4 years now. It's been 1 year this season. They say 4 years now, but let's call it what it is, forever. Going to be ring-fenced. These clubs have operated within a structure that has existed for, in some cases, about 150 years, which, I mean, that cannot just be thrown away. And in a lot of cases, you are actually throwing it away. And for what? For what? For the betterment of the sport? For the betterment of the game? I'm not convinced that's always the case. For money? Absolutely, that's what it will be done. But that's why it's butted heads so much with football fans, because it's so counter to the traditions, the history and the culture of the sport in this country. People quite often point to America and say, well, look at the NFL and ice hockey and baseball and basketball. They have closed shop, ring-fenced competitions, yes, but culturally, 'twas ever thus. Whereas in England, in football, in rugby, it's very much not the case. And so you need to be very, very careful when you're messing about with stuff and you're trying to unpick seams which are 150 years binding together. And there's one thing with rugby that I've noticed when I compare it to what's been going on with football this week. There's a lot more apathy in rugby at the minute. There's these proposals, these suggested proposals which have been floated and the RFU might sign off on for another 4 years. And I think the apathy isn't because people aren't opposed to it. I think people generally are. And I think if you took a vote, a majority of people would not want a ring-fence league. I think actually it's death by 1,000 cuts. Because for years this has been, we're talking about it, ring fence, we're talking about ring fencing, that's being considered, they're thinking about it, they're having a meeting about ring fencing. Then COVID happened, boom. Here's our chance. We're doing it for 1 year. Just 1 year, remember. It's only 1 year. Oh, okay. If it's only 1 year, we'll let it go. Now we're hearing 4 years. It's just 4 years till we can get back on our feet and we can get stable again. And I think that's why people are being apathetic, because they're not judging it on what it is. If last year they'd said ring fencing is coming in permanently, there would have been a big backlash. Maybe not quite on the scale that we're seeing with football, but, you know, relatively speaking, it would have been a big backlash for rugby union if they just ring fence the Premiership. What they're actually doing is just, they know what they want, and that's the objective. They're just tiptoeing there bit by bit, hoping you won't notice that oh, we're over there, we've got a ring fence league by the back door. So this 4 years, I'm not convinced it's going to be just 4 years. In fact, if it goes through with this 4 years, I'd be willing to suggest that it's done and dusted. And my point being, maybe you think that's a good thing, and that's okay. I don't, for what it's worth. And also, for what it's worth, in this video channel, I have made videos where I've said what English rugby could and should do to avoid ring fencing and also solve some of the problems that exist within the game, getting more money in, getting a better product that can get more TV money and sponsorship, and grow the game in terms of pure numbers and make the international team better. I've come up with solutions for all of that, so have a look in the feed. I'm not just coming with problems, I've got solutions. But I think my point is, and what I've learned from football this week is, you've got to pipe up. You've got to say something. Because this death by 1,000 cuts causing the apathy in rugby union, causing people to go, oh, well, if it's only 1 year, I'll let it go. And if it's only 4 years, I could probably deal with that. But it won't just be that. It'll be gone for good. And you've seen what a difference it makes when high-profile names, media, fans actually sing from the same hymn sheet. It has a profound effect where actually the politicians are now running around pandering to that support, trying to win the support and votes of people because they feel a movement swelling. We need to create a movement in rugby if you actually believe that is the case. You need to say something, even if it's writing a letter to your club owner, drawing your line in the sand. I just think that football's done that incredibly well this week, whatever you think about the proposed European Super League. The one little treat I have for you to finish the video, I actually managed to rope in someone who lives not too far from here. I'm in Manchester at the minute. And I managed to get Gary Neville to give us his thoughts on the proposed ring fence Premiership. So I'll leave you with that. Gary, what do you make of all this?
I'm disgusted, absolutely disgusted. I'm disgusted with
Bath and Leicester Tigers.
Most. I mean,
Gloucester.
They pretend they own the People's Club, the Fans Club.
Northampton Saints.
100 years, born out of workers, and they're breaking away into a league without competition that they can't be relegated from. It's an absolute disgrace. And honestly, we have to wrestle back the power in this country from the clubs at the top of this league. And that includes
Bristol.
It's pure greed. They're imposters. The owners of
Sarries.
The owners of
Irish.
The owners of
Sale.
The owners of
Exeter.
They're nothing to do with
rugby
in this country. There are 100 and odd years of history in this country from fans that have lived and loved these clubs. Now, I'm not against money in
rugby union,
but the principles and ethos of fair competition and the rights to play the game so that...
Worcester Warriors.
You watched them earlier on today. They're absolute shambles of a club at the moment. And they want a God-given right to be in there. Enough is enough.